Lu Mingfei was such a certified loser that literally nobody was betting he'd even graduate high school. Then, in a rare moment of main character energy, dude actually worked up the nerve to confess to his childhood crush. And, shocker of shockers, she picked the rich trust fund kid over him instead. I mean, come on, what did Mingfei even have going for him, right? But hold up, because this is the exact moment his life is about to take such a wild left turn that even golden boy Zihang is going to be seething with jealousy later. Mingfei had always been the definition of a nobody. Ugly, universally hated, holed up in his room like a basement-dwelling goblin. His one joy in life was absolutely destroying a keyboard that was crusty with potato chip grease. But here's the thing. In the online world, this dude was an absolute legend, one of the best players to ever touch that server. And right as we drop into the story, he's sweating bullets in a match against his one and only real friend, a gaming buddy who probably didn't even know his real name. Dude was mashing that keyboard like his life depended on it, fingers flying faster than his GPA ever will. Against all odds, he clutched the win, hit that silent little flex like, "Yeah, I'm that guy," and watched his friend log off. Except the victory tasted kind of empty, because the second the server cooled down, so did Mingfei's will to live. Bored out of his mind, he went to go creep on his online crush's profile. Yeah, a certified catfish he was head over heels for, already drooling onto his fungus-covered keyboard. That's when, out of nowhere, a duel request popped up from some top-tier player called Nono. Mingfei didn't even think twice, accepted instantly, figuring this would just be one more victim for his sweaty gamer fists. Except the second the match started, his ego got absolutely obliterated. Nono's skill level wasn't just good, it was terrifying. This person played so well that Mingfei had to get up out of his chair and start pacing like he was in the finals of a championship. And then came the real humiliation. Mid-match, Nono slid into his DMs and typed out his next move before he even made it. And guess what? She called it exactly right. The match ended with Mingfei getting so thoroughly wrecked that his soul basically froze in the chair. He went to check Nono's profile just to find a completely blank page. Mystery final boss, unlocked. Shaken to his core, Mingfei rage quit and logged off. Meanwhile, across town, the mask came off. The monster who just destroyed him was actually Chen Nono, an elite dragon slayer from Cassell Academy, better known online by her gamer tag, Nono. Yep, same person. Hold on to that. She was riding in the car with her friends when Mingfei's name came up in conversation. Apparently, the principal had his eye on this useless hermit, claiming the kid had S-rank potential. Nono wasn't buying that for a second, so she challenged him just to see what all the hype was about. After crushing him, she got even more annoyed finding out he'd already landed a scholarship straight from the principal's own hands. Curious but pissed off, she logged into Cassell Academy's AI system, Eva, to dig through Mingfei's sad little life. And the system spilled everything: 0 friends at school, 0 social presence, abandoned by his parents, living with his aunt, uncle, and his idiot cousin Norton, who treated him like garbage 24/7. Mingfei's only joy in the real world was catfishing Norton online, pretending to date him purely out of spite. His family screamed at him every single day, telling him to get a job or become a broke failure for the rest of his life. And as if that wasn't miserable enough, Eva revealed that Mingfei's dream wasn't to be a hero, a sage, or a wizard. No, this man's actual dream was to work at a convenience store, just to make enough to top up his game account and keep living with 0 social life forever. Nono's jaw hit the floor, and her friend nearly crashed the car laughing because the idea of this guy deserving an S rank made absolutely 0 sense. Meanwhile, Mingfei got kicked out of the house to run errands. On the way, he checked the mailbox. Inside, a letter and some weird device. The first letter was a rejection from an international university. The second was an acceptance to Cassell Academy, personally signed by Professor Johann, who was even offering to mentor him himself. Mingfei slapped himself just to check he wasn't dreaming. But nope, it was real. He ran back home with the news, only to get told by his family that it was obviously a scam. His aunt accused him of forging the letter, and cousin Norton laughed in his face, saying there was no way a loser like him was getting into Cassell Academy, since it was a school for superpowered hybrids like the legendary Zihang, one of the strongest students alive. Mid-argument, Mingfei zoned out into a daydream where Zihang himself stepped out of a helicopter, bowed before him, and called him Master. Then reality slapped him back, and the fantasy shattered. He even started thinking maybe his family was right, that this whole thing was just a cruel prank. But right as he turned to walk away, the mysterious device from the letter started ringing. His aunt picked up, only to hear that someone wanted to interview Mingfei the next day about his acceptance to Cassell Academy. Everyone froze. That night, Mingfei told his best online friend about the situation. Unlike his toxic family, this friend got genuinely hyped and even gave him some tips on how to present himself at the interview. For the first time in forever, Mingfei felt a spark of hope, with zero idea that this was just the beginning of the chaos his life was about to become. The next day, Mingfei dragged himself into the city for the interview. He was already sweating bullets, but things got worse when he noticed a bunch of old classmates were there too. Turns out everyone had gotten the same acceptance letter. Right in the middle of them was his heart's ultimate final boss, his longtime crush, Eri. Obviously, dude melted on the spot, like a plastic chair left out in the sun. While waiting in line, he asked how she'd ended up there, trying to sound smooth but only managing his usual awkward small talk. He even gave a clumsy little pep talk, telling her not to worry since she'd always been the perfect student back in school. Eri smiled and thanked him, which to him was basically the biggest win of the last several years of his life. One by one, students got called in until it was finally Mingfei's turn. He'd spent the entire night rehearsing possible questions, like a nerd cramming for finals. Except instead of asking about his life, the examiner hit him with the dumbest possible question. Do you believe in aliens? Mingfei nearly fell out of his chair. He was expecting something basic and got hit with an Area 51 interrogation instead. Another interviewer straight up told him that his life story was irrelevant and that these bizarre questions were what actually mattered. So, being the simple guy he was, Mingfei answered dead seriously. Said yes, he believed in aliens, said he stared at the night sky every single night like a lonely poet, and insisted the galaxy was way too big not to have extraterrestrial life. When he finished, he stood up, apologized to the examiners, and basically rage quit his own interview, saying he must have walked into the wrong college. Then he walked out like the idiot he was, except inside, things were far from calm. A man burst into the building and confronted the interviewers, and not just any man, it was Professor Johann himself. When he found out Mingfei had bailed after a single question, he exploded. He screamed at the interviewers for not begging the kid to stay and ordered them to call him back immediately. Even the interviewers were confused by how much importance was being placed on this random nobody. Meanwhile, Mingfei was walking home totally defeated when he ran into Eri outside. Super casually, she asked if he wanted to be her date to prom, and he said yes on the spot, like the hopeless romantic he was. In his head, he was already picturing marrying her, settling down in the city, and living happily ever after, basically writing self-insert fan fiction about his own life. To him, Cassell Academy didn't even matter anymore. But when he got home, reality slapped him again. His aunt told him Professor Johann himself had called. Mingfei had passed the interview and was officially enrolled at Cassell Academy. The failure who'd walked out after one question had somehow still won. The next day, Mingfei went back to the building with his aunt, uncle, and idiot cousin Norton to meet Johann in person. As expected, his aunt instantly turned into a gold digger, asking about money. The professor calmly explained that Mingfei's scholarship came with $36,000 a year deposited straight into his account, and that he'd be living right on campus. The second she heard the number, his aunt did a complete 180, begging him to accept the offer. Johann then explained the real reason Mingfei had been chosen. Apparently, this guy was carrying a once-in-a-century talent inside his soul. His family looked confused, so the professor pulled out a letter written by Mingfei's parents. Turns out they'd never actually abandoned him like he'd always believed. They were honorary students of Cassell Academy. The letter revealed his mother's side of the story. She'd left not out of a lack of love, but because of their bloodline. She'd asked the principal back then to give her son a scholarship when the time was right. Reading her words, Mingfei broke down. He ran to the bathroom, tears dripping onto the paper. For the first time, the clown of the story had a genuinely serious moment. His mother's letter said she'd always loved him and only wanted the best for him, even if she couldn't be there. Except the emotional moment got cut short when Nono walked in and clowned him for crying in the women's bathroom like a total creep. Without an ounce of mercy, she told him to stop being so dramatic and dragged him back to the meeting like a babysitter hauling a toddler. When Mingfei got back to the room, Professor Johann asked what he thought about enrolling at Cassell Academy. Instead of grabbing the opportunity of a lifetime, Mingfei said he needed more time to think. The guy had just gotten a golden ticket to the most elite school in existence, and his response was basically, "Let me get back to you." Before the professor could even react, Nono decided to expose him right then and there, in front of everyone, casually announcing that the real reason for his hesitation was a pathetic little crush on some girl, and that he didn't want to leave her behind. Mingfei nearly choked on his own spit. How did she know about Eri? For a second, he thought Nono might be some kind of stalker, but she admitted she'd just been guessing. Still, her words got under his skin. That's when Nono let slip something identical to what she'd said during that online duel. And that's the exact moment it clicked in Mingfei's tiny brain. Nono had been the Nono from the game the whole time. The same gamer girl who'd clowned him like a bot. The humiliation doubled, now in real life too. Later, Mingfei sat on the roof stewing, trying to figure out how this girl knew so much about his life. He actually pulled out his phone, ready to confess his undying love to Eri like the star of a bargain bin rom-com. But before he could embarrass himself even further, Nono appeared behind him like a horror movie jump scare. She explained that Eva, the AI system, could track him down anywhere, and that she'd been sent by Johan to try convincing him, one last time. Even so, Mingfei, stubborn to the core, refused. He told Nono he couldn't go to Cassell Academy because he loved Eri too much and needed to confess before leaving. Nono dropped the harsh truth. Eri never liked him, never was going to like him, and he was about to ruin his own life chasing someone who didn't care. But Mingfei, being the clown that he was, insisted he still had a shot, since Eri had agreed to go to prom with him. Nono tried to hammer it into his thick skull. If he didn't enroll now, the chance might be gone forever. But his stubborn heart wouldn't listen. The next day, he went shopping with Eri for prom supplies. Nono confronted him again, warning that the professor was leaving that same night, and that a decision needed to be made. Even so, Mingfei brushed off the advice, clinging to his fantasy of a dramatic love confession at prom. He spent hours rehearsing in front of the mirror, memorizing lines like a desperate telenovela character. And since he was broke, he went and picked wildflowers off the ground to give Eri. His big romantic plan was quite literally dollar store tier flower picking. When prom started, his supposed best friend Anju handed him a suit to make him a little less pathetic. Mingfei walked up to the stage with the bouquet in hand, ready to bare his soul. Except right at the moment of the confession, Anju pulled off the ultimate betrayal, walked out with that very bouquet and confessed to Eri first. And, to top it all off, Eri said yes, admitted right then and there that she liked Anju too. The two of them had been playing Mingfei like a puppet the entire time. Anju wasn't just a top-tier traitor, he'd set the whole thing up as a prank. And in front of everyone, the girl Mingfei thought was his destiny humiliated him, choosing Anju right there on the stage. Mingfei froze in silence, completely destroyed. His best friend betrayed him, his crush stomped on his heart, and his entire life crumbled in one single public execution of feelings. Poor guy just stood there like a broken NPC, drowning in heartbreak and rejection. Right when Mingfei thought the humiliation couldn't get any worse, Nono made her grand entrance. She showed up looking so flawless that the entire crowd let out that, "Oh, you only hear when a celebrity's walking a red carpet." She came down the prom stairs flanked by her own entourage, clapped her hands, and had her girls strip off Mingfei's loser outfit and dress him up like someone who actually mattered. For the first time, Mingfei didn't look like a rejected side quest NPC. He looked like he'd finally stepped into the main storyline. Nono then looped her arm through his, right in front of everyone, making the crowd gasp in shock. She turned to Eri and Anju and, with a smirk, twisted the knife, saying Mingfei had way more important things to do than waste time here. Anju nearly exploded with jealousy, but Nono cut him off, saying this was the last time they'd ever see this version of Mingfei. She walked out of the ballroom with Mingfei hanging off her arm, while he refused to look back at Eri, pulling off that rare main character move of not even giving his ex-crush a second glance. The two drove off together until the gas ran out, forcing them to stop and wait. That's when Nono let her guard down and admitted she couldn't afford to fail her mission of getting him to Cassell Academy. But Mingfei, in a rare moment of gratitude, thanked her for not giving up on him. He finally reconsidered and agreed to enroll. She immediately notified Eva, who greeted Mingfei for the first time, threw his stats up on screen, classified him as S rank, and issued him an official student ID. Nono then went full ceremony mode, placing an imaginary crown on his head and proclaiming him King of Cassell Academy. Even though he hadn't actually done anything yet, Mingfei got emotional, wearing the exact face of someone who just unlocked a cheat code. A few days later, Mingfei headed to the airport to finally travel to Cassell Academy. Things went sideways the moment he asked for directions to the CA subway line. An officer looked at him like trash and assumed he was homeless, telling him to go find his own embassy for free food and shelter. Mingfei was furious. He'd literally just been crowned king, and now he was getting treated like a random guy off the street. His day got worse when he tried buying a snack with the little cash he had, only for the cashier to refuse service, saying they didn't serve homeless people. Actual homeless people nearby started waving at him like a long-lost brother. Right as Mingfei was about to lose it completely, a silver-haired student appeared out of nowhere. Finger, a professional, spare-some-cash freelancer who immediately asked to borrow money to buy a soda. Mingfei, convinced it was a scam, said no. But Finger spotted the Cassell Academy subway card in Mingfei's hand and completely lost it, whipping out an identical one of his own. Mingfei realized this clown was actually a fellow classmate. Disappointment turned into relief, and even so, Finger still somehow managed to scam a little cash out of him. While they waited, Finger told him his tragic backstory. He was famous at Cassell Academy, but not for greatness. For failing so many times, he'd dropped all the way from A rank to F rank. He explained the school's insane transit system. High-rank students got travel priority, while low-rank students like him had to wait forever. He also described the mysterious location of the school, hidden deep in the mountains. After venting, he passed out, and Mingfei, exhausted with his own existence, decided to take a nap too. That's when the weirdest dream yet hit. Mingfei saw people fleeing with torches, jumping off cliffs, total chaos. And suddenly, a little kid showed up, introducing himself as Mingfei's brother. The kid warned him about an impending apocalypse on Earth, and even clowned him for saying such a pushover after all these years of getting stepped on. Mingfei actually tried offering the kid money, who refused instantly, calling him an idiot. Right as his soul was about to completely collapse, Mingfei woke up to some weird guy ringing a bell at the station, announcing the train's arrival. But when Mingfei introduced himself, everything changed. The conductor completely lost his composure, absolutely glowing to finally have the long-awaited S-rank student standing right in front of him. Finger also lost it, bragging that Mingfei's rank was on par with the actual headmaster's. And the worst part, if Mingfei had swiped his card sooner, the train would have shown up instantly, instead of making them waste the entire day waiting. Mingfei was ready to throw hands with fate itself. Anyway, he swiped the card, and the whole airport transformed. Lights turned on, a hidden passage opened, and the CA's secret subway was revealed. As they went down, Finger kept hyping him up, saying this was exactly what an S rank deserved. But Mingfei's nerves spiked when he spotted zombie-like figures in the tunnels. Finger calmed him down, promising they were just actors doing set decoration. And then came the big moment. The train roared into the station, and Professor Johann leapt out like a proud dad at his kid's game, hugging Mingfei with total emotion and telling him everyone had been waiting for him. On board, Mingfei was handed confidential documents to sign, officially sealing his insane new life at Cassell Academy. After finally shaking Finger off, Professor Johann decided it was time to drop the bomb. Cassell Academy wasn't some knockoff Hogwarts. It was actually a dragon hunting academy. Their real curriculum was learning to hunt, kill, and survive against creatures straight out of a fantasy nightmare. Mingfei, in the moment, figured the professor had completely lost his mind. To him, this sounded less like a school and more like a delusion straight out of a con panel. Before he could even mock the professor out loud, Mingfei slipped into another trance. The mysterious boy from his dream showed up again, confirming that dragons were real and telling him a story straight from ancient history. He explained that, thousands of years ago, the first dragon ancestor, Nidhogg, the Black Dragon Emperor, was struck down on his own throne. His body, so massive it could have been subdivided into real estate, was tossed onto a frozen mountain, marking the start of a new era. Humans threw massive celebrations over the victory. Basically, history's first ding-dong the witch is dead party, except with dragons. When Mingfei asked if the kid had any connection to dragons, the little punk denied everything like a shady politician. Back in reality, another man, Chaime, showed up with physical proof. They showed Mingfei a dragon scale and asked him to test its strength. Mingfei, thoroughly unimpressed, called it fake. So they pulled out the ultimate trump card, a baby dragon found back in 1796, locked in a glass tube dormant for centuries. Mingfei, curious but suspicious, got closer, and the creature opened its eyes. The dragon thrashed inside the tube, trying to break free, then went back to sleep. Mingfei nearly wet himself right there. Johann theorized that Mingfei's bloodline was the trigger, meaning his mere existence pissed dragons off. He added that, thankfully, they'd swapped out the container the year before, or Mingfei would have caused a mass extinction event. Anyway, they finally arrived at Cassell Academy, and Mingfei's jaw hit the floor at the scale and beauty of the place. It looked less like a school and more like a billionaire's fortress. As they walked through the massive halls, Johann explained that countless high-level dragons were still asleep scattered across China, which made the country a hotspot for dragon research. Mingfei noticed the place seemed deserted and asked where all the students were. Johann froze instantly, panicked, and told him to duck. They'd accidentally walked straight into Freedom Day, the school's most chaotic tradition, a massive war between two rival factions. On one side, the Lionheart Society, led by Zihang, on the other the Student Union, led by Caesar. Students popped out from hiding spots with weapons like it was a live-action Fortnite match. Johann took a shot mid-explanation and dropped like a rag doll. Mingfei got stuck in the crossfire, watching in horror as the battlefield narrowed down to just the two leaders and their shooters. That's when everything escalated. Nono, serving as a Student Union sniper, took a hit. Watching her fall woke something dark inside Mingfei. The boy from his dream whispered again, egging him on to make everyone pay for their sins. Going full beast mode, Mingfei grabbed a rifle, stood up like Rambo, and landed a perfect headshot on the enemy shooter. Then, without hesitating, he took out both Caesar and Zihang like he was speedrunning Call of Duty. Everyone froze, stunned by his precision, while Mingfei himself was horrified by what he'd just done. Before he could fully spiral, the alarms went off. Red Cross nurses came running, injecting antidotes into the dead students, who instantly revived. Mingfei stood there, jaw dropped, while Professor Fenrir showed up complaining about the insane cost of that whole circus. Mingfei nearly passed out again when Johann, who'd taken a bullet not too long ago, suddenly sat up, alive and fine. Thinking he was seeing a ghost, he almost screamed. But Johann calmly explained the bullets were just sedatives mixed with fake blood. To prove it, the lunatic shot himself again and passed out right there. Fenrir, furious about the collateral damage, threatened to report the whole thing to the principal. But when the call actually went through, the principal didn't care at all, laughed at the situation, told the students to enjoy themselves, promised the school would cover the damages, and even apologized for not showing up in the middle of the chaos. Students celebrated like it was a festival, while Mingfei wondered if he'd enrolled in an actual asylum. Then came the biggest twist. The principal asked to speak to Mingfei directly, greeted him warmly, and joked that it was no surprise an S-rank like him could knock out 2 A-rank leaders on his very first day. Mingfei's stomach dropped, realizing he'd just painted a giant target on his own back. Fenrir, sensing the danger, whispered for Mingfei to sprint to the dorms as fast as possible, because those humiliated students weren't going to let this slide. Behind the scenes, the principal had a private conversation with a man named Mans. They discussed a dark incident from 8 years ago when students had been completely wiped out, reinforcing just how brutal dragon battles really were. Mans insisted they needed a prodigy to lead the next generation. Even though Caesar and Zihang showed promise, the two agreed that Lu Mingfei might just be the wild card they'd been waiting for. While the higher-ups planned the next day's operation, sending Constantine and Susie to dive underwater so they wouldn't wake a sleeping dragon, Mingfei got dropped off into dorm life. To his horror, his new roommate was none other than Finger, the clown who lived off other people's wallets and whose only real talent was failing classes. Finger wasted no time warning him that his win on Freedom Day had turned him into a top target for both the Student Union and the Lionheart Society. Basically, half the school wanted to jump him. Trying to play tour guide, Finger dragged Mingfei around campus, proudly showing off the fancy departments and right after, dropping the bomb about Yanling, mysterious, unique powers specific to each person. He even bragged about Professor Fenrir's dad, who kept a barrier around the school using his own Yanling, like some kind of magical neighborhood watch. But before Mingfei could even clown Finger for bragging about someone else's dad, chaos broke out. A student lost control of their own Yanling and summoned a giant water monster. A teacher shut it down fast, but the scare triggered another vision in Mingfei. He found himself in front of a half-dead, eerie, spine-chilling tree. Finger explained it was the World Tree, the exact spot where the Black Dragon Emperor got beaten within an inch of his life, and that it was now the school's symbol. Professor Johann barged in and dragged Mingfei back to the dorms, handing over his official student ID. He warned him about the mandatory 3E test. Fail it, and you're expelled. Johann promised Mingfei's rank would carry him through, but the warning still hung heavy in the air. To prep him, he pulled out an old music box containing a recording of the Black Dragon Emperor's actual roar, the Yanling Imperium. Any other student would have freaked out, fainted, or started screaming. Mingfei? He listened for about 5 seconds and immediately fell asleep. Zero reaction, zero resonance, just dozing off like the audio was a lullaby. Finger, never one to miss a chance to clown someone, blasted the news across the school network instantly. Within minutes, everyone, including Zihang and Caesar, knew the big S-rank student had face-planted against the Imperium. Mingfei spiraled into panic about the 3E test, so Finger offered to help him cheat. Because, obviously, if your roommate's future is on the line, academic fraud is clearly the solution. Meanwhile, Professors Johann and Fenrir were losing their minds in the library. Their research suggested Mingfei wasn't just weird. He might descend from the White Dragon Emperor, the loser who once challenged Nidhogg and got epically wrecked for it. That entire bloodline was supposed to be extinct, and yet, there was Mingfei, snoring through dragon roars. Fenrir wanted to dissect him like a lab rat, but Johann refused, saying they'd only report it if Mingfei actually failed. That night, some shadowy figure hacked the school's AI, making sure Mingfei would pass no matter what. Then came test day. Mingfei walked in clutching Finger's cheat sheets like sacred scripture. Proctors handed out blank sheets, explained that the dragon recording would trigger visions, and simply walked out of the room, like the whole thing was some crossover between a final exam and a haunted house. While most people treated it as a joke, Mingfei drifted off into another trance. The mysterious boy finally revealed his name, Norton, same as Mingfei's annoying cousin. He explained the visions came from Mingfei's own heart and promised to carry the burden alongside him, turning the whole thing into a therapy session with a jump scare built in. When Mingfei woke up, Nono told him he'd basically slept through 2/3 of the exam. Luckily, he'd already scribbled down answers beforehand, even though he'd messed one up and written 9 instead of 8. Nono just laughed it off, saying it was fine. He'd passed. Back at the dorm, Finger congratulated him with fake enthusiasm, officially welcoming him to college life. But then his curiosity got the better of him. He peeked at Mingfei's class schedule and nearly fell over laughing when he saw he'd picked Professor Fenrir's mechanical alchemy design class. Finger warned him that Fenrir had the worst reputation in the entire school for making students cry from getting roasted so hard. Then he dropped the bomb that the class was canceled anyway because the lunatic professor had left on a mission to hunt an ancient dragon. Far from the chaos of Cassell Academy, Professor Fenrir, aka the professor who'd rather die than actually teach, led an expedition through a sunken city. Constantine and Susie geared up like a discount Aquaman and Ariel, diving deep into the ruins. Down there, Constantine used his Void Serpent Yanling powers to scout ahead. But just as things seemed calm, Fenrir warned that a magnitude 5 earthquake was about to hit the area. Because of course, on the one day they decided to go sightseeing underwater, the Earth decided to rage quit. The tremors wrecked their communications, cutting the two of them off. Constantine, being the only competent person there, used his Void Serpent powers to restore contact. Fenrir reported to the principal, explaining the ruins might actually be a Dragon King's palace, and that they'd need a key to get in. The key was a baby with pure dragon blood. Yes, an actual baby. Some mother had handed the child over, saying it was their last resort. Fenrir, without a second's hesitation, dove right back into the water with the baby in his arms like it was the highest stakes babysitting gig imaginable. At the city's bronze gates, he activated his own Yanling, used the baby as the password, and unlocked the entrance. After giving instructions to Constantine and Susie, he headed back to the ship, leaving the two of them to search while Ava scanned the city. Constantine noticed the oxygen levels were dangerously low, so Fenrir told them to conserve every breath. Inside, they found a chamber with a giant bronze pillar, and Constantine pulled the classic noble sacrifice card, telling Susie to save herself if things got worse. Meanwhile, Susie got stuck with the boring tasks, photographing statues for the ship. But when her heart rate spiked and she started losing consciousness, Constantine rushed back to save her. That's when he revealed he'd found a seriously heavy artifact and had also spotted what looked like a sleeping baby dragon. Things got worse when a statue literally started chasing Susie. She shot it, which, combined with an earlier touch, triggered the city's security system. The ruins turned into a constantly shifting death maze, and the baby dragon, sensing the intruders, went into full lockdown mode. The two barely managed to escape through collapsing passageways, desperately trying to make it back to the ship. Back at Cassell Academy, the alarms went off, calling in every A-rank student and above. Mingfei, of course, slipped into another vision. The mysterious boy showed up again, warning about imminent death and danger, but also dropping a cheat code to unlock maps like some kind of cosmic hacker. Finger tried to snap him back to reality, but Nono coldly told him his useless F-rank self wasn't invited to this meeting. Finger stormed off, sulking like a kid kicked off the playground. Inside, the professors explained the emergency. Constantine and Susie were trapped, oxygen running out, and the students needed to help decode dragon text to save them. Easy task, right? Except Caesar pointed out that decoding dragon text usually took 15 years, not 20 minutes. Even so, the professors pushed the work onto them anyway. Mingfei sat there, completely lost, until Eva stepped in and reconfigured his computer into a game-like interface. He remembered the Dream Boy's cheat code, typed it in, and boom, the entire map decoded instantly. While everyone else sweated bullets trying to translate, Mingfei basically hit Ctrl+V and solved the whole thing in seconds. The decoded map got sent straight to Constantine and Susie, guiding them towards safety. Down in the ruins, Constantine suggested letting the baby dragon look at the map, and sure enough, the creature pointed toward the only escape route, straight down through the base of the city. With only 3 minutes of oxygen left, Constantine told Susie to save her strength. She tried to confess her feelings, but he silenced her with a kiss and a dramatic promise to survive. Classic anime romance cliché, underwater edition. Meanwhile, Professor Fenrir realized they'd made a massive screw-up. They'd only calculated enough oxygen to get into the ruins, not to make it back to the surface. So he ordered the lifeboats launched and had the ship head down for the rescue. Back at Cassell Academy, everyone waited anxiously for news, while Mingfei, who just accidentally saved the day with a single button press, still looked completely miserable. His online friend called, cheering him up, telling him to keep his head up no matter how bad things got. Pretty ironic, considering Mingfei had basically carried the entire operation by pressing one button. While Mingfei was still stumbling through his new life on campus, Professor Fenrir's expedition out at sea was turning into a full-blown horror movie. Back on the ship, the rescue team scrambled to locate Constantine and Susie. But before they could even come up with a plan, Susie surfaced clutching the artifact. Gasping for air, she revealed that Constantine had sacrificed himself to save her. Tragic, right? Well, the tragedy lasted about 5 seconds because a shadowy creature suddenly burst out of nowhere, dragged Susie back underwater, and sprayed blood across the waves like the opening scene of a shark movie. That's when the monster revealed itself, a water dragon in full attack mode. It charged the ship, and Fenrir grabbed a rifle, unloading it Rambo style. Except, spoiler alert, the dragon didn't even flinch. The bullets bounced off like crumpled paper balls. The crew escalated to missiles, only for the beast to swallow them whole. When a crew member panicked, warning that the still active warheads were now inside the creature's stomach, Fenrir lost it and gave the order to detonate anyway. The sea erupted in a fury of fire, and for one glorious second, everyone thought they'd won. Except dragons don't play fair. The creature came roaring back to the surface angrier than ever, tearing straight through Fenrir's assistant's chest and dragging her under before anyone could even blink. Fenrir lost his mind, emptying his entire rifle into the water while the dragon circled the ship, making strange noises. He translated for the terrified crew. The dragon was mocking them for being useless. And, to make things worse, detonating the still active missiles could send the flames right back at them. At the peak of the panic, someone spotted a nearby dam. Fenrir ordered full speed ahead. They raced toward the dam with the dragon glued to their tail. The plan worked for a moment. They managed to slip behind the dam, trap the dragon between the gates, and detonated the bombs. The beast exploded into pieces, but fate wasn't done clowning them yet. A massive tooth flew through the air and skewered Fenrir, killing him in the most unlucky anime character way possible. Back at Cassell Academy, students waited for news until the principal appeared on screen. He announced the mission's success, thanked everyone, and gave special recognition to Mingfei for cracking the map. The room erupted in applause, though Mingfei looked like he really just wanted to crawl under a table and disappear. On the walk back to the dorms, Zihong approached him, calm and confident, inviting Mingfei to join the Lionheart Society as his successor, saying he'd respect his choice even if he decided to go with the student union instead. Their conversation got cut off by ringing bells and white doves, the school's mourning signal. Everyone bowed their heads learning of Fenrir's death. In his final moments, Fenrir had refused medical help, telling the principal it was already too late for him. He reported his findings on the Dragon City, asked that the students be told he was on a new mission, not dead, and made one last request. Find Nono a real mentor. The dragon base they'd discovered got shipped back to the school for future research. Meanwhile, Mingfei got an email invite to Caesar's dance party. Curious, he asked Finger who Caesar actually was. Finger didn't hold back on the details. Caesar was basically the golden heir of an absurdly wealthy family, carrying enough expectations to crush anyone. Mingfei wanted to bail, complaining he had no suit and couldn't dance, but Finger insisted. His brilliant solution was borrowing an outfit from the drama club. At the party, the contrast was brutal. Caesar's event was pure elegance, rose petals, lit candles, and Caesar personally welcoming Nono like a fairy tale prince. He even announced the party was in honor of her birthday, making everyone line up to wish her well. Meanwhile, Mingfei and Finger just stood there like broke extras, the only two without a dance partner. Finger managed to blend right into the dance floor. Mingfei, meanwhile, turned it into a comedy show, tripping over his own feet like he was lagging out. Nono quietly asked Caesar to go easy on Mingfei, not wanting to push him toward the Lionheart Society. Caesar smirked and said he had his own plan. Mid-dance, he silenced the entire ballroom with a speech about loyalty and greatness, getting the crowd to chant his name. Then, like the master manipulator he was, he put Mingfei on the spot, publicly inviting him to join the student union. Mingfei tried to stall, asking for more time, but Caesar pushed, telling him to request a song and get out on the dance floor. That's when the blonde violinist from the 3E test stepped forward. She set her violin aside, held out her hand, and led Mingfei onto the dance floor. And for the first time, instead of embarrassing himself, Mingfei actually moved to the rhythm, guided by her calm instructions. It was the first time anyone had looked at him without seeing a total disaster. As Mingfei clumsily danced across the floor, the blonde violinist finally introduced herself as Zero. Under her guidance, he stopped flopping around like a fish on stage and actually found his rhythm. And, surprisingly, the crowd applauded, giving him a rare taste of dignity. A little overwhelmed, he stepped out for some air. That's when Nono spotted him, waved him over, and he quietly wished her a happy birthday. She said she needed a break from her own party, claiming exhaustion, and then casually asked him to drive her up to the top of the mountain. Mingfei, still desperate to impress her, agreed on the spot. Meanwhile, the whole fairy tale dance abruptly ended when Ava dropped the bomb. The school was under attack. Suspected Dragon King infiltrators had breached the gate. 13 invaders had gotten in, and their target was the dragon vessel locked away inside the Alfheim Institute. With staff stretched thin, the professors had no choice but to throw students onto the front lines. Caesar and Zihang got called in to defend the school. Students got armed with ice rounds, and prep for a full-on bloodbath kicked off. While everyone else geared up, Mingfei was mid-drive when he slipped into another vision. The absolute worst possible moment to black out, since he was behind the wheel on a mountain road, meaning one wrong move could send him and Nono straight off a cliff. Luckily, Norton, the sinister dream brother, showed up again, steering him safely. He couldn't resist clowning Mingfei, suggesting that Nono inviting him up the mountain might mean she liked him. Mingfei panicked, insisting she was already with Caesar and way out of his league. Norton laughed, dropping the harsh truth. Nono didn't love anybody. And just to twist the knife further, he tossed Mingfei one more cheat code: show the flowers. Back on campus, things got ugly. Only 6 invaders remained after the initial clashes, but their captain still ordered the mission to push forward. The objective was simple: grab the dragon vessel. To track them down, Fenrir prepped to unleash his void serpents, but the school's barrier blocked the power. He called his own dad, who agreed to drop the barrier on the spot as an early birthday present. Dad of the year, no question. The second the barrier fell, the invader captain activated her shadow field Yanling, turning her squad invisible as they advanced on Caesar's position at Valhalla. Up on the mountain, Mingfei and Nono sat by a lake, and the mood turned heavy. When Mingfei offered condolences over Constantine and Susie, Nono admitted she'd already made peace with their deaths, then dropped another secret. Professor Fenrir was dead too. The whole "he's on a mission" story was just smoke and mirrors to keep the students calm. She explained he'd warned her himself before leaving that this would be the sign of his own death. Reflecting on her own mortality, Nono said that if she died, she'd want people told she was on a mission in Iceland, just so everyone could move on. She then shared an old legend about fireflies that guided souls up waterfalls carrying them home. Mingfei, as usual, just sat there in silence, probably too dense to realize she was actually saying goodbye to her own soul. Back at school, Invader number 13 went rogue, sneaking through a chimney into the abandoned wine cellar. Using a master keycard, he unlocked a hidden door. Meanwhile, Caesar prepped for battle at Valhalla, activating his Kamitachi Yanling, picking up invisible enemies nearby. Ever the show-off, Zihang radioed his rival, challenging him to a dumb little contest to see who could take out their enemies first. But the other side, being the serious type, just brushed the idea off. Eva ordered the evacuation of the library where Zihang was stationed, forcing his assistant to leave him alone. At Valhalla, the invaders lost their cover the second their leader's phone rang. She revealed herself as Mai, Susie's younger sister. Caesar even offered his condolences and got a verbal slap back. She flat out said she didn't care one bit about her sister's choices. For dramatic flair, she even started a musical countdown. But Caesar wasn't there for theatrics. Before the song even finished, he'd already wiped out her entire squad like they were background extras. That's when Mai revealed the real strategy. She was just the distraction. The actual threat was the blank-faced girl, sent straight to take on Zihang in the library. The real goal was clear: take down the school's 2 strongest names, the unbeatable duo. In the library, Zihang finally stood face-to-face with the expressionless girl. The professors monitoring the fight tensed up the moment they noticed she wasn't carrying a weapon, which usually only means one of 2 things. Either she was too weak to need one, or too strong to bother. Professor Johann reminded everyone that Zihang's Yanling was classified top secret. When he finally activated his power, the whole area erupted into a blazing furnace. His ability, Royal Flame, was so overpowered it looked like a bomb going off inside the library itself. Only then did it become clear why the students had been evacuated. But the shock didn't stop there. The expressionless girl didn't even blink. Meanwhile, Invader 13 stumbled into one of Eva's AI personalities called Eva 2. Yeah, apparently the school has a screw loose when it comes to naming systems, deep in the restricted tunnels. She explained that the underwater route he was using hadn't been traveled in 35 years. But since he had an access card, she couldn't stop him. Instead of panicking, the idiot celebrated when his employer doubled his pay to 5 million. Except he was hopelessly clumsy. He slipped into a reservoir, lost his phone, and never got his final instructions. Still, he kept pushing forward, drawn in by a sinister voice whispering, "Brother," through the water. Up on the mountain, Nono apologized to Mingfei for Caesar's behavior, explaining he was just trying to push Mingfei to live up to S-rank expectations. Then she dropped the real bomb. It was actually her who'd invited him to dance, not Caesar. She teased him about dancing with Zero, then, out of nowhere, asked if he'd be willing to join the student union. To ease his paranoia about being used as Caesar's pawn, Nono confessed she genuinely wanted to look out for him like a little brother. She even revealed her engagement to Caesar was nothing more than a political arrangement between families. When Mingfei asked why she hadn't helped him during his embarrassing dance disaster, she admitted Caesar had stopped her. Then she flipped the script, joking that if he really wanted to protect her, he should be buying her gifts. The conversation turned bittersweet when she mentioned getting a mysterious birthday gift every single year. Remembering Luminous's cheat code, Mingfei murmured, "Show the flowers." When the car speakers burst into music and fireworks lit up the sky, spelling out, "Happy birthday, Nono," she broke down in tears, confessing the gifts always came from her late mother. Mingfei promised to be her little brother forever, and she hugged him tight, swearing to always protect him. For the first time, Mingfei wasn't just a clown. He was a clown with good timing. Down in the depths, Invader 13 kept getting dragged along by the currents until he stumbled into an underwater research facility. Researchers were gathered around the dragon vessel, preserved in liquid nitrogen and guarded like a crown jewel. The director warned against dissecting it, explaining Professor Fenrir had already cracked the thing messing around with mercury, and that if the Dragon King Norton woke up, it would be the end of days. Scans showed 2 embryo cavities, but one of them was mysteriously empty. When a researcher insisted on opening the vessel, the director lost his patience, pulled a knife on the guy, and forced a full evacuation. Invader 13 took the opportunity to sneak in afterward, tried to steal the vessel, and immediately started hallucinating. A woman's voice kept calling him brother. Shaken, he bolted, accidentally dropping a mysterious little bottle from his pocket. He had no idea those were actually his final instructions. Pour the solution into the vessel and extract its contents. The second he left, a hooded stranger grabbed the bottle, poured the liquid over the vessel, and even added his own blood. An explosion of energy swept through the chamber as he declared that now both the blood and the dragon belonged to Nidhogg. Meanwhile, at the church, Caesar's duel against Mai was heating up. He played the smug aristocrat card, offering a challenge. If she landed 3 hits, she'd win. Her first attempt failed against his Kamitachi defense. Her second, using a hairpin to create a clone, got shredded instantly. Her third was more elaborate, but Caesar still crushed it. Breaking the rules, Mai pulled a gun. But before she could squeeze the trigger, a distant child's whisper triggered an explosion inside the church itself. The fight ended in total chaos. Caesar, confident as ever, called it a draw. Mai, fuming, disagreed. Back at the crime scene, everyone stood stunned at melted footprints on the floor and a clean burnt hole in the wall. Mai, dramatic as always, pointed out the temperature matched the surface of the sun itself. Caesar, for the first time, looked shaken. His Kamitachi hadn't picked up on anything at all, even though he'd heard an elevator groaning somewhere below. Then the truth hit him. His power couldn't sense the invader because the thing had no heartbeat. In other words, they hadn't even been fighting a person. Meanwhile, on the mountain road, Mingfei was freaking out as the car started itself like it was auditioning for a Fast and Furious spin-off. Nono just shrugged and suggested they hurry back to campus. On the way, she checked Caesar's messages, where the full invasion alert had leaked out. Mingfei was practically in tears, but Nono, calm as always, told him to relax. Caesar and Zihang would handle it. Spoiler, they could barely stand. Back at school, the professors watched Zihang and the expressionless girl go at it like a pay-per-view boxing match. Their strength seemed dead even, though one professor noticed something terrifying. The masked girl had way better control. She wasn't even trying to win. She was stalling. Meanwhile, Invader 13 attempted the dumbest escape possible, on a bicycle. Professor Johann ordered open fire, but somehow the clown dodged every single shot until fate stepped in. Mingfei crashed head-on into him. When Invader 13 pulled a knife ready to stab, the two froze, recognizing each other. This wasn't a stranger, it was Old Man Tang, Mingfei's former gaming partner. The two quickly staged a fake kidnapping so Tang could escape, but the plan derailed when a mysterious kid landed right on top of their car. Wrapped in flames, carrying a glowing shield, he screamed, "Brother!" Like, this was straight up a family reunion from hell. Mingfei slammed the gas pedal, but still caught the kid's burning reflection in the rearview mirror. The professor screamed orders to keep the kid at a distance. Bullets melted on contact. Grenades. Useless. All they managed to do was piss him off more. The kid unleashed his royal flame, creating a nuclear-scale explosion that instantly cut off the duel between Zihang and the expressionless girl. Both of them stopped fighting, realizing that Walking Furnace was the real threat. The expressionless girl admitted the kid had been freed by accident, and surprisingly, Zihang decided to trust her. Desperate, Professor Fenrir called his own father, begging him to restore the barrier, but the old man dropped a brutal truth. A barrier wouldn't do anything. The kid wasn't just anyone, he was one of the first-generation dragons, the Bronze and Fire Dragon King. Basically, game over. Mai reported the Dragon Kid sighting to her own employer, who nearly choked hearing the description. An energy shield, a body like a steel furnace, untouchable. After watching the footage, she confirmed the kid wasn't Norton, like they'd feared, but his brother, Constantine. And the news got worse. She had absolutely no idea how he'd been freed. Constantine, meanwhile, wandered the campus, crying for his brother like a lost kid in an apocalyptic wasteland. Mingfei, Nono, and Old Man Tang hid behind pillars, debating survival strategies. When asked about his job, Tang admitted he was a hunter, but Nono clarified his organization hunted ancient artifacts, not animals. Tang confessed he'd joined the group online, basically like signing up for a delivery gig, and had been sent to steal the dragon vessel with zero clue it was Mingfei's school. Seeing the photo of the cracked vessel, the three of them pieced it together. Constantine had crawled his way out of there. Their hiding spot didn't last. Finger found them, screamed, and instantly ratted them out like the coward he was. Constantine turned toward them, and the group ran for their lives. Caesar and Mai intercepted the three mid-escape. Caesar's only concern was Nono's safety. He ordered her to hide in the pool, and though reluctant at first, she gave in. Mai, on the other hand, wasn't running anywhere. She swore to protect her own squad. That's when her employer called in with the only good news of the night. Non-metallic ice rounds could actually repel Constantine, even if they wouldn't kill him. Caesar and Mai loaded up and passed the info to the professors. Their shots finally made Constantine stagger, and soon the guards and students followed suit, firing in unison. At first, Mingfei, Old Man Tang, and Finger somehow completely forgot they were being hunted by a dragon kid and decided to mess around in the pool like idiots. The fun ended the second they heard footsteps. They dove underwater trying to hide, but Mingfei got instantly yanked into one of those strange visions. The pool turned blood red, steam rising off the surface like a cursed hot spring. He stumbled onto the shore, figuring it was just another hallucination, only to be greeted by Constantine himself. Mingfei felt an eerie sense of familiarity, like he'd already met this overheated little punk before. Constantine sniffed him like a lost puppy, radiating heat so intense you could toast marshmallows right there. Suddenly the world shifted, revealing pyramids and fire. Mingfei realized he wasn't in Kansas anymore. This was the Bronze City, and Constantine was the exact same walking furnace tearing his school apart. Right as Constantine got closer, Luminous appeared out of nowhere, kicked him in the face, and told him to get lost. Mingfei woke up gasping at the edge of the pool, alone and disoriented. That's when the principal showed up like Batman on a casual patrol, dragged Mingfei up to the observation tower, and laid it all out. The Dragon Kid was cornered, but killing a Dragon King was no child's play. The principal handed him a rare alchemical bullet, the one thing capable of finishing off Constantine. He also revealed his own Yanling, Absolute Zero, capable of slowing down time itself, giving Mingfei the perfect shot at the dragon's eye mid-motion. No pressure at all, right? He topped it off with a motivational speech, basically boiling down to, "Don't screw this up, kid." Elsewhere, Old Man Tang looked tense. Finger needled him about nearly ditching them both in the pool. Worse still, Tang admitted he'd also heard Constantine call him brother. Before they could process that, Constantine dropped the act and shifted into his full dragon form. The principal thanked the students for their effort and personally took point. Activating Absolute Zero, he shattered the dragon's shield, exposing its weak point. All Mingfei had to do was shoot. Of course, Mingfei froze like a deer in headlights until Luminous appeared behind him, steadying his aim. Together, they fired. The principal ordered everyone to unload, but in a shocking twist, the dragon didn't fight back. He shielded Old Man Tang with his own body. With his last breath, the dragon whispered, "Brother," and died. Tang, completely shattered, ran off, but the memories hit him like a runaway truck. He remembered Constantine, their promise to protect each other, their shared dream of ruling the world together. Reality slammed into him full force. He wasn't just Old Man Tang. He was Constantine's twin, the Dragon King Norton. Grief and fury consumed him, and his true form erupted in a blazing transformation. Later, the principal and Fenrir's father discussed the damage. Why hadn't the principal executed Norton on the spot? His answer was cold. Dragons genuinely can't be killed, only sealed. Even a single fragment of their body can regenerate. That's why humanity had always relied on sealing techniques. He revealed his own hybrid bloodline had kept him alive for over a century, but he needed a successor. His mission was the genocide of dragons, not just the four kings, but Nidhogg himself. Norton's blind rage was just another tool in his plan, no matter how many humans ended up caught in the crossfire. The next day, Mingfei and Finger were still trying to process their near-death experience. Finger explained the headmasters were coming back, security upgrades were on the way, and dropped some gossip about the party's secret backstory. When asked about his faction choice, Mingfei admitted he joined the student union because of Nono. Finger, smug as ever, revealed he'd been a member for ages. Their Their conversation got cut off when a cranky old man handed Mingfei his student union ID card. Apparently, Nono had already bet he'd join. He was also told Caesar wanted to see him in an hour. Meanwhile, Caesar had his own meeting with the principal, who praised the group's efforts and dropped the next bomb, an expedition to the Bronze City. He specifically requested Mingfei's participation, claiming his potential was too valuable to waste. Caesar agreed. Later, Mingfei got dragged to Caesar's office. The poor guy nearly fainted hearing the survival rates were basically garbage and tried every excuse in the book to get out of it. Caesar wasn't having it, explained this was a huge honor. Only 2 freshmen had been picked, Mingfei and Zero had already said yes. Mingfei's cowardice started grating on Caesar, who even threatened to revoke his student ID. That's when Nono stepped in, promising to look out for him like a protective older sister. With no way out, Mingfei reluctantly agreed. Caesar wrapped up the meeting announcing they had 2 months to prep him for the mission of his life. The next 2 months turned into pure torture for Mingfei. Dude went from total couch potato to involuntary Navy SEAL in record time, diving lessons, martial arts, endurance training, hand-to-hand combat, breath-holding practice, shooting drills. If it existed, they crammed it down his throat. When mission day finally arrived, Mingfei wasn't buff or brave, just extremely nervous, sweating inside his gear like a chicken before slaughter. Finger, ever the useless best friend, tried to hype him up, and just ended up spreading gossip instead. He explained couples couldn't dive together, which was why Constantine and Susie had hidden their relationship to get paired up. It clicked for Mingfei instantly. Caesar and Nono wouldn't be able to dive together this time. He finally cracked, admitting he was scared out of his mind and might not come back alive. In a dramatic gesture, he handed Finger his own credit card, telling him to enjoy the fortune if he died. Finger wasted no time, immediately started ordering food like he was at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Mingfei nearly passed out watching the balance drain in real time. But to his surprise, Finger handed the card back and said he'd make it back alive. That rare moment of loyalty gave Mingfei just enough confidence to keep standing. Meanwhile, Norton wasn't wasting any time either. He summoned one of his own servant dragons to prep for the coming showdown. The mission, codenamed Operation Bronze, officially kicked off with Mingfei, Nono, Caesar, and Zero boarding the ship. Professor Fenrir welcomed them with a hype speech, showing off their arsenal like a kid flexing new toys, torpedoes, reinforced defenses, and even a brand new dragon killer missile. The goal was simple: infiltrate the Bronze City and blow it to pieces before Norton finished transforming inside it. Mingfei, being his usual useless self, asked why they couldn't just study the city instead. Fenrir explained like he was talking to a toddler. They didn't have the tech to pull an entire city up from underwater. Destroying it was the only option. Then came the dive pairings. Caesar would go with Zero, while Nono went with Mingfei. But out of nowhere, Zero claimed she couldn't dive because she was on her period. Mingfei, clueless as ever, tried to argue that shouldn't matter, but Zero held firm. The responsibility fell, to his misfortune, on Mingfei and Nono. She patiently explained the dive suits equipped with a consciousness cable, a line that would pull them back if they blacked out. Mingfei immediately worried about dragon attacks, but Fenrir reassured him. All the dragons were hibernating. Norton specifically needed to cocoon before regaining his powers, so the odds of running into one were basically 0. With everything set, Mingfei and Nono descended into the depths. They reached the massive ancestral gate, and Mingfei followed orders, spilling blood into a slot. Except instead of some magical welcome, the damn gate bit him. His panicked screams echoed underwater until the gate finally let go. Nono swam over calmly, pointed out it was just a little nibble, and told him to stop being so dramatic. Mingfei looked at his hand, barely a scratch, but bandaged it up anyway like he'd survived a shark attack. The gate groaned open, and a violent current dragged the two of them into the Bronze City. Nono blacked out for a moment, waking up next to Mingfei in a strange hallway. She immediately asked Ava about the air quality, and the AI confirmed it was breathable. To save oxygen, she told Mingfei to ditch his breathing gear. They reported back to Fenrir, who confirmed the suspicion. Norton's return had reactivated the city's systems. When Nono asked where to place the bombs, Fenrir directed them toward the Dragon King's palace. To navigate the maze, he had Mingfei release a special dye into the water and follow the current. As they trailed the dye deeper into the Bronze City, Mingfei's cowardice was on full display. Every time he passed a creepy statue, he muttered about how terrifying it was. Nono rolled her eyes and clowned him relentlessly, calling him a coward straight to his face. To distract him, she told the dark story behind those statues. Long ago, a tribe had marched into the city bearing offerings, crops, livestock, and even a beautiful maiden, hoping to lure the Dragon King out. But Norton, the ungrateful jerk, never showed. The sacrifices were for nothing, and their bloodlines ended in misery. The dye trail stopped near the same giant pillar where Constantine and Susie had once arrived. That's when Mingfei, desperate to wrap things up, suggested just slapping the bomb there and leaving. Nono shut that down instantly. Her sharp instincts told her this wasn't the real palace, and before Mingfei could argue, she tricked him into putting his oxygen mask back on and shoved him underwater. Ruthless. When Fenrir asked for an update, Nono lied, saying visibility was bad. Shortly after, the two got swept into another section of the city, a place littered with the skeletons of warriors who'd once challenged Norton. It was basically a graveyard of the defeated. Nono seized the moment and grabbed Mingfei's injured hand, using his blood to unlock a hidden gate just below. It worked, but the win came at a steep cost. They lost contact with the ship and with their own consciousness cable. Panic hit Mingfei instantly, but Nono stayed calm, reminding him they could reconnect later. The two ended up in a rundown little house, where Nono slipped into a trance and dug up the place's dark past. This wasn't just any house, it was Norton and Constantine's original palace, still echoing with their shared memories. Impressed, Mingfei listened as Nono revealed she'd once profiled him the moment he first enrolled. She admitted her overprotectiveness came from guilt, since she'd expected him to quit within days. Nono then set the bomb timer to 45 minutes, but their relief vanished the second they spotted a freshly lit lamp. Someone, probably Norton, was nearby. They took off running only to discover the consciousness cable had been stolen. Meanwhile, the city started collapsing around them. Racing back toward the entry point, they reached another gate. Before facing it, they had a rare moment of honesty. Mingfei confessed he'd never written a goodbye letter because he was sure he'd make it back alive. Nono, more vulnerable than ever, admitted she hadn't written one either because she figured nobody would miss her if she died. Mingfei brought up Caesar, but Nono coldly dismissed the idea, saying he'd move on easily enough. Without another word, Mingfei cut his hand open again, activating the gate with his blood. On the ship, Fenrir grimly concluded the pair was probably dead. Caesar lost it, demanding a rescue dive, but Fenrir reminded him their mission wasn't saving lovebirds. It was taking down a dragon king. Down below, things hit rock bottom when Mingfei and Nono found themselves facing a dead end. Nono admitted only a miracle could save them now, and right as Mingfei was about to completely fall apart, he remembered Luminous's cheat code. Desperate, he activated it. To his shock, Luminous's voice answered, relieved to hear from him. Then, out of nowhere, Finger's voice barged into his head too. Mingfei, half panicking, begged Finger to check the Bronze City's map and guide them out. But that desperate request set off chaos topside. On the ship, Professor Fenrir suddenly grabbed his own head in unbearable pain. To everyone's horror, they realized his brain was being used as a signal relay for Luminous's makeshift comm system. Time was literally slipping through their fingers because Finger was busy fumbling through the Bronze City map like a total noob. His limited access made everything painfully slow, and Caesar was seconds from strangling the guy while Fenrir's brain fried from serving as a human Wi-Fi router. That's when Finger remembered his own life's cheat code. Eva, one of the school's AI personalities, slipped into his system like a guardian angel, promising to bring Mingfei and Nono back alive. With unrestricted access finally unlocked, Finger tore through the map like a hacker on overdrive, plotting an escape route for the two of them. But above the surface, things were spiraling. Zero dropped the bomb. The water temperature had spiked to 50 degrees Celsius out of nowhere, classic dragon weather manipulation. Fenrir was out cold, drooling from the psychic strain. That's when Zero pushed Caesar into command. Caesar, ever the smug mafia prince type, took charge like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment, barking precise orders at the student union crew. Their celebration didn't last long. The lower deck rocked violently when a dragon slammed into the ship, wrecking the torpedo bay. At first they thought it was Norton himself, but sonar showed nothing. That's when Zero spotted something terrifying through her scope. It wasn't Norton. It was his loyal servant, the dragon Samson, hunting them like a shark that hadn't eaten in weeks. The ship barely held together as Samson tore up the water around it. But just as suddenly as it started, Samson abandoned the hunt because Norton had appeared on a distant hill. The entire crew froze. Norton leapt into the water, face to face with his own servant. Everyone expected some emotional master and pet reunion, but instead, Norton simply thanked Samson and killed him on the spot. Zero's jaw practically went through her scope. The betrayal made zero sense until the water erupted in a catastrophic burst of energy. Out of the chaos emerged a new abomination. Norton fused with Samson's body. It was a grotesque power shortcut, letting Norton completely skip the cocoon phase. The poor bastard had just speedrun his own dragon evolution. Zero, still watching through her scope, understood the horrifying truth. Norton's fusion meant less time for them and more power for him. The orders came through crystal clear. Norton had to die no matter the cost. But no matter what happened, Mingfei's survival was priority number one. Meanwhile, down in the sunken city, Nono and Mingfei ran through the corridors guided by Finger's instructions. Their hearts sank when they stumbled onto Constantine's body, still clutching a book meant for the ship. He'd given up his own oxygen mask to save Susie. Mingfei wanted to keep running, but Nono forced him to pause for a second, whispering a goodbye to Constantine before pulling him forward. The path seemed endless, and Mingfei's nerves finally snapped. He admitted to Nono he didn't think he'd make it out alive. Even Nono started doubting Finger's calculations, and panic gripped them both. That's when Mingfei's subconscious finally punched him in the face. He found himself face to face with a rawer, more honest version of himself. This inner Mingfei tore into him without mercy, calling him pathetic for always waiting on someone else to save him. He said it flat out: either grow up and face it or die like a coward. The brutal speech lit a fire in Mingfei's soul. For the first time, he held his ground and refused to break. At the exit gate, the final obstacle awaited. The door required dragon blood to open, and Mingfei, like an idiot, couldn't manage to cut his own hand with the knife. As a massive slab began lowering, threatening to crush them both, Nono strained every muscle in her body holding it up. She screamed at him to hurry, and Mingfei finally dropped the knife, ripped off his oxygen mask, and bit his own finger like a wild animal. His blood triggered the mechanism. The gate burst open and the water sucked them in, but Mingfei blacked out instantly. On the ship, even in rough shape, Professor Fenrir still managed to mutter one last warning about Mingfei and Nono's oxygen running out. Caesar ignored his half-dead ramblings and focused on survival, ordering the crew to move the ship while Norton's fused form gave chase. With no time to waste, the team launched the rescue pod into the ocean, praying Mingfei and Nono would reach it before the Dragon King reached them first. Underwater, Mingfei was already knocking on death's door. His unconscious mind tormented him with visions of everyone he knew, mocking him for being useless. Right as it seemed like he was about to give up for good, Nono administered the most extreme CPR possible, a brutal slap across the face. He jolted awake to her less than gentle honesty. She'd ripped off her mask to bite her own finger earlier, burned through her entire oxygen supply, and now they were stuck sharing her nearly empty tank. Bottom line, they were screwed. While Mingfei panicked, fate threw them a bone. A helicopter suddenly buzzed overhead, and Zihang came through on the radio announcing reinforcements. Caesar's crew breathed a sigh of relief, and Mingfei nearly cried from relief himself. In a pure act of selflessness, Nono stripped off her own dive suit and forced it onto him, saying she'd survive on her own diving skills. Mingfei didn't know whether to thank her or beg her not to die. But before he could say anything, the water erupted in detonations releasing poisonous gas. The mission had just leveled up from nightmare to full-blown hell mode. Meanwhile, up above, Caesar and the crew were fighting just to survive against Norton. When Zihang showed up offering backup, Caesar's face twisted like he'd ordered steak and gotten a salad instead. Zero called him out instantly, saying extra help was always better than none. But Caesar shrugged it off. Fire against fire wasn't going to work. Zihang's royal flame was basically useless against Norton's hellfire-level power. Things got worse when the pilot announced the engines were failing and the ship couldn't stay airborne. Their only hope for survival was the sealed compartments keeping the ship afloat. But Caesar wasn't ready to give up. He realized they still had torpedoes and quickly cooked up a suicidal plan. They'd need to get within 100 meters of Norton, dangerously close. But the torpedo would hit with jet speed force, packing a punch even Norton couldn't shrug off. Caesar decided he himself would distract the dragon, while Zero took the shot. Zero warned him the torpedo launch would sound like standing next to a rocket booster. His eardrums, with his senses amplified, would get destroyed. Caesar just smirked and put on a blindfold, tuning his senses to work purely off sound. The battle began. Caesar unloaded his rifle on Norton, every bullet getting swatted away like an annoying mosquito. But that was exactly the point. Zero's plan was to piss the dragon off until he stopped thinking straight, and it worked. Norton's fury locked entirely onto Caesar. Seizing the opening, Zihang fired off his own royal flame to pile on the pressure. Norton answered with equal force, creating a blinding explosion that lit up the entire battlefield. Everyone was blinded, except Caesar. In that split second, he ripped off the blindfold and screamed for Zero to fire. She obeyed, and the torpedo roared forward like a metal meteor. Caesar, riding pure adrenaline, forgot to cover his ears. The explosion echoed across the entire battlefield, and the torpedo punched straight through Norton's chest. With a roar of pain, he collapsed into the water, stunned and sinking. And that's it for today. If you're into anime recaps like this one, drop a comment down below. I read every single one. Also check out this other video right here, you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.